So let's continue our discussion on the validations and derivations. So let me just do a quick recap what we have done. So we added one validation using BRF application. So how to add validations? So in MDG IMG, so under the general settings, so data quality. So data quality and search. So here we have something called this validations and enrichments. So there is a defined validations and derivation rules. So this is when you open this, it will open up a BRF application where you can configure the validations and derivations for your master data. Okay. So once you open this, so this will open up the BRF application. Okay. Here you need to input the data model for which master data you wanted to configure the validations and derivations. In our case, I think we created a validation under for the material master. So MM is the data model. So same is like for your custom data model also, you need to just input your data model. And when you click on continue, you can see a folder structure here on the left hand side. So there's a check entity folder is there, derivation is also there. So currently we're discussing about the validations. So you can, so we already created one check material. So this is a function. We call this as a function. So this function we usually create at the entity level. So we created one validation based on old material number. So the old material number field exists under material entity. So I created a function under material entity. So once you create this function for particular material entity, now all your validations with which are falls under the same entity, like a material group, material type, whatever you see here, right? On create material. So let me open the material creation screen. So we'll take this mat01. So all the fields which falls under material entity, you can create validations or rules under the same check function. Okay. Now you have material industry sector, material type, base unit of measure, old material numbers, authorization groups. You see all these list of attributes that you can see, right? So which is there under this particular basic data, right? So all these, if any validations that are with respect to these attributes, so for everything, you need to use the same function. That means under the same function, you are not supposed to create once if there's a function is already available with this name. That means here check underscore, this is the entity name. Once this is available, any attribute validations with respect to the attributes which are falls under this one, you need to use the same function. Don't create a new function. But for example, if you are creating a validation based on plant or sales or that falls under a different entity, and if that function is not available over here, then you can go ahead and create a new function. So because at runtime system always checks, check underscore, it will add the entity name and it will check if there is a function exist or not. Okay. So that's why we should have only one function per entity. Okay. So that's about the function. Now, once you create this function, right? So how do you create a function? I showed you in the right click here on this check entity. Okay, create object node. There's something called create function. So once you enter this create function, you need to enter the name is check underscore the name of the entity and some short description, create and navigate. So that I showed you in the how to create this function. Now, once you create a function, here there are two things. One is signature, other one is rule set. Signature is like, since we created this function for material entity, here you need to add the material structure. So what do you mean by material structure? So if you remember, for every data model, there is a structures that will get created. So under the data model, you have something called generate data model specific structures. Okay. So this, as soon as you create or activate your data model, for every entity, see, this is MM data model. If you go to structures, the entity name is material. Okay. So material, here you have something called PP structure. Yeah, this one. Where is the PP? Yeah, this one. Okay. So this is the name of the structure slash MDGMM slash it will add this prefix. Okay. You can see the structure name in S11. Okay, you can find that structure. So this is the name of the structure. This is the name of the structure. So for every data model, for every entity, these structures are already created when you activate your data model. Now, what we are doing here is in this particular signature section, I'm adding that structure over here. So because this function is for material entity, at the same time, I need to add that material structure over here. Okay. So when I add this structure, it will add all the attributes from that particular entity. Okay. So then in the rules, when I'm defining the rules, the data is available. It just like in ABAP, you are creating one function module. When you're creating a function module, what you will do, you will pass some attributes, some data. So those attributes are available inside that function module, the values where you can actually do some coding. So now whatever user selects on this particular UI, and when they are creating this material, right? So when they're using this change request, so whatever the data that user enter over here, that data will be passed via this structure, the attributes. Okay, so that's why you need to add a signature. You are creating a function for material entity, and if you add a structure for some other entity, then your rules won't work. So we need to exactly add the same structure. And if you click on this, so this structure, okay, you don't find the name of the structure over here, but it will add all the attributes from that particular structure. Okay, so that's fine. That you can actually, when you click on this one, you can search with your entity and add that particular structure over here. So once the signature, the input signature is completed, defined over here, then the next thing is go to the assign rule sets. In the rule sets, you see here we created one rule set. So it's a logical grouping. So basically, the how this uh, hierarchy look like is, so at the top level you have something called function, right? So this function is in our case check underscore material. Okay. Now under this function, you added the signature. Okay. At the same time, you can create rule sets. Okay. So rule sets can be like a rule set one and rule set two, rule set three. Right now, under a rule set, you can create rules: rule one, rule two, rule three. So these are the actual rules. So you are actually logically grouping the rule sets into multiple. Maybe some rules I wanted to create one rule set, and another for another set of rules I'll create another rule set. This is for another rule set. Likewise, so or else you can keep everything under the same. So why this kind of thing is rule sets and then rules are there? This is the your actual rules where you create the rules. But why SAP provided these kind of rule sets to me? Okay, so now if you look at this, okay, so we created RS underscore material. This is one rule set. Again, I can create another rule set. Okay, so under this rule sets, once you open this rule set, this is the place where you will have the actual rules. What is the rule? If material type is equal to FERT, that means for all the finished products, here old material number is initial. Then you are throwing some message over here. What is this message? You click on this, it will show you the rule. Please maintain old material number. Some text over here, some warning message. Okay. So likewise, I wanted to insert another rule. You can click on insert rule and create a rule. Again, you will get this condition editor. And here you can write if else form, the rules in the form of if else. Okay, so now once these rules you are creating under a rule set rs underscore material. Similarly, I can actually create another rule set, and there okay, another rule set rs underscore maybe material 2 or something like that. So this naming convention can be anything. Okay, so why SAP provided this rule set is, let's say there are multiple teams are working on same material master object. Okay, so one team can create their own rule set. Under the rule set, they can write their rules. Another team can create another rule set and they can write their rules under the other one. So likewise, just for an organizing purpose, SAP provided these ones. But ultimately, your actual rules will be there under the rules section. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay, fine. So this is about validation. So likewise, you can create n number of validations for same within the material or same entity, multiple rules. Or else you can create, if at all I wanted to write a validation against plant, you can create a check function, a new function, check underscore the entity name, because under the plant you will have multiple entities. Okay, so let me show you MDG IMG. So it is always easier if you open the data model. What are the attribute that you are writing a validation, right? Just look at that attribute falls under which entity. Okay. So here, all these attributes are under material entity. And yeah, from here onwards, you can see valuation is there. Whatever starts with MARC. Okay, all these are plant related entities. MARC, all these are related to plant entities. So the basic first one is MARC basic. There will be something called MARC basic. Yeah, this is the which contains your basic attribute. Then within the plant, there are costing relevant, MRP relevant, forecasting relevant. Okay, so ATP relevant. So different attributes they grouped under into different entities. So you need to look at the attribute for which you are going to write a validation that falls under which entity. And you need to create a check underscore MARC MRPLS, check underscore MARC MRPFC. Likewise, you need to create those many functions. Depends on your rules. Okay. So this is about validation. If you are very clear about this, how to write a validation, then the derivation also falls the same thing. There is no difference. So let's look at how we can, let's take one simple example of derivation. Okay. So what is the derivation? So the derivation we wanted to write is, if material type is equal to FVRT, let's try to put, we wanted to derive general item category. General item category value should be make to order 0001. That means as soon as I enter here FERT material type, FERT material type, here this value should automatically fill with 0001. Okay, so that is the derivation. Now our idea, our first thing is, let's look at this general item category. We know that it falls under material entity only because this is part of material entity. Okay, so you can see general item category. You can search with category. General item category. This one, general item category, MTPOS MARA. Okay, so there are multiple ways to identify what is this field name. One is you can actually do a search. Okay, if you know this attribute, so one is you can go to MARA table. Uh, Go to Mara table. Try to find that attribute. Okay. So that attribute will be control F item. Yeah, this one. General item category. Okay. You can see MTPOS Mara. So if you know this field, sometimes the field name might be on the data model, it might be different. So, but usually they use the same data element. So take this data element and search with the data element over here. Okay. It will show you that. It will highlight that row like that. Okay. So this is one way where you take the data element, set your data model, and locate that attribute falls under which entity. The other option is also right. So you can always right click over here, right click on this, go to technical help. This is the UIBB name. The current UIBB where you right click, that is the name you can see here. Component configuration or component customizing. Okay. Click on this. Okay. So here you can again you will find that item category. This is the one general item category. When you select this, okay. So select this attribute here. Go to that attributes tab. It shows you this one. So there are multiple ways to locate your attribute name. Okay. So once you know that attribute name, so now here this folder clearly tells you all the validation should go under this check entity, derivation should go under the derivation folder. Okay. How we created this function, the same way you need to create a function over here under the derivations, right click. Okay. Same, create object node, create a function. Here, the naming convention you need to follow, derive. Derive is the keyword, derive derive underscore, the entity name is material. So derive underscore material. Okay. So material entity derivations. Okay. Same. Create and navigate to object. Okay. So it created a function. Now you need to add the signature, the same how we created this one. Okay. Add existing data object. Okay, so here we need to add the structure. So if you don't remember the name of the structure, right, you can put, I know the field name. So MTPOS is the field name. Search with that star MTPOS star, search. So it shows you that attribute. Now, this attribute under this particular, the same MTPOS attribute available in two entities. One is this is your material entity, other one is your sales related entity. Also, it is available. Item category field is available at sales level at a basic data level. But what I'm going to write a validation is that validation is for this particular at a material entity level. You can see the position. This is under material basic data, which is material entity. So I need to add this structure. Okay. So select this material structure, click on material, it will add the material structure. Now the same steps, go to assign rule sets, create a rule set. Here you can write any name, rs underscore rule set underscore, let's say material derivation. Okay. So now created a rule set. Here we need to insert a rule, insert rule, create rule. So everything is same. The only difference, right? So till now, whatever we followed for validations, we followed the same steps. Okay. But here, look at the condition rule, and then you will understand what is the difference between the rule that you have created under check entity versus the rule that you created under derivation entity. Okay. So here you can provide some a description to your rule. So this is, let's say, general item category derivation, some anything. Okay. And you also have option to set a validity period, whether it is valid for if you don't maintain any validation, it will be infinite. It is applicable for all the time. But if you have any validations that should run only for a specific time, you can specify valid until some date. Okay. So now here we need to write a rule. What is the rule? If material type is equal to FERT, right? So if condition here context material type, okay, so you can search with MTART. So material type, if material type is equal to FERT, okay, so FERT, then if you look at this one, this is the difference. In earlier case, we are providing a message, we are throwing a message. If the condition is satisfying, then we are throwing a message. But here you have something called assign value context. That means material type is equal to FERT, then assign value. So you have an option to assign a value to attribute. That attribute can be any attribute. That's what here you can see, assign a value. Because derivation means I wanted to fill a value, right? So that thing is here assign value to context. So now he can choose which attribute you wanted to assign. So we wanted to assign that MTPOS, right? So star MTPOS star general item category. Okay, choose this one. So if material type is equal to FERT, then change value of this material item group 2 to which value we wanted to set. So again, you can choose it from the F4 001. So now look at this one. So the difference between the validation and derivation is, in case of derivation, you have an option to assign a value. Whereas if you observe that a rule that we created under check entity, that you perform some action. So there you have, if this condition is met, then you have an option to perform an action. What is that action? Throw some message. So that's the difference. Okay. So now we created one rule. Save and then activate. Okay. So this rule set is active. Go back.
Question.
Yeah.
Maybe common question. So these rules will be there in out-of-box facility, right? For MM?
Folder structure you are saying left side or?
Correct.
No, this folder structure will be, this type of folder structure will be created when you first time enter into this BRF application.
Okay.
But this is the common folder structure. So in see FMDM underscore model underscore MM, this it won't be available as a default. First time when you're creating a rule, when you enter in, let me show you here in the system. Okay, so we'll finish this and then I'll show you. I'll give you.
Yeah, my question is, see, I am taking a project for implementing 5 sites, which is S4 HANA site for the material creation process.
Okay.
So I'm putting MDG as a system of record for material master. So if that is the case, do I need to set all these rules? Will it not be already there?
No, these rules, right? So this, see, from MDG or in general, right? How SAP will set the rule for FERT material type, this should be 001. SAP doesn't know that one, right? So there are 2 attributes are there, 2 fields are there. Which value you will input, that is your project specific.
So it's a business.
In my organization for FERT material type, I'm populating 001. But for someone else, they may use FERT, they may use some ZFERT, custom a material type as well, right? So that he doesn't know. It's a template. What values he will input, that is a rule. That is your business rule.
Okay. So business specifically, we need to.
Exactly. Exactly. Because see, for some project, for some customers, old material number is a mandatory field. As soon as when you are creating a material number, old material number should be input with some your legacy system material number or something like that. It is not same for all the organizations, right? So then they will like a validation saying that for material, if material type this one, the old material number is blank, then they throw an error message.
Understood.
So these attributes, you will have these attributes. These attributes are common across all your, all these attributes are your out-of-box attributes only for material. But how do you fill that data? What kind of validations you write? What kind of derivations you write? Those are your business specific.
Okay. Understood.
Well,
understood.
Fine. So now coming back to this one, so we activated this function, derivation function also, this is active already. Okay, so now let's run a scenario and see whether it is populating it or not. I'll close this and I'll open, create a material. Okay, so let's choose, because if you recollect that when we are creating this rules, we entered the data model and we enter into this application. So all the rules, whatever the rule that you are writing here under the check entity, the derivations under your derivation folder, all these are at object level. These are very specific to your object, irrespective of your change request. We are not saying that it has to run only for this CR type or that kind of thing. Okay, so this is at object level. So when you are creating a material, no matter what change request type you choose over here, the rules will get executed. If you have any specific requirement that, okay, this rule has to be run only for this particular CR type, that you need to include in the condition your change request type as well. Or else it will run for everything, for all the CR types. For now, I'm choosing the CR type. I'm choosing the CR type. Okay, any CR type you can choose. Click on continue. Okay, so enter something, base int of measure each. Material type I'm not inputting. Let's enter industry sector. M description, this something. Okay, so now we created a derivation for this particular general item category. That means the value has to be 001 when material type is equal to FERT. So choose your material type here, FERT. Okay. So as soon as you enter FERT, see this value automatically filled. Okay. So that kind of validations. Okay, let's say, for example, to get into, these are the things that we need to take care. Let's say, for example, you change this value, let's say, for example, FERT to something else. Still, that value will be there because the condition that we have written is, look at the derivation. Okay, material type is equal to FERT. Okay, but if material type is equal to FERT, then we are filling this data. But in this case, what happens? This value is already populated, and material type is this time material type is equal to 456S. Right? In that case, it doesn't go into this one because this if condition is not matching. So it doesn't go into this one. It won't do anything. So now, if I change this value to, let's say, for example, 004. Okay. Now, after this, again, if you change your material type to FERT, that will reset to again 001. Okay. So that means whenever you set the value to FERT, this value is getting changed. But let's say, for example, business says that the rule can be by default, it will populate based on the material type 001, but I should be having a provision to change the value. So this is the default value. Now, after this, I wanted to change to 004. Okay. So, but it is not allowing me to change the value. See, 005. It is not allowing. All the time it is entering into 001 only. But you have a requirement where business says, let's populate this value as default value. After that, user should be able to change this value. How we can do that? Any guess? Look at this rule and tell me that how we can actually handle that situation. So look at this condition. I'm trying to change this value 004. It is not taking. All the time it is setting to 001. But that means I'm not able to change the value other than 001 for FERT. Okay. How we can do that one is basically, see, if this is blank, that time only you default it. After that, if you are trying to change something, don't run this rule. That means you need to extend this condition. How? Material type is equal to FERT and this general item category should be blank. Then only set to 001. Clear? Did you understand what I'm trying to, what type of rule that we are trying to handle here situation? So it's not a straightforward one. Sometimes you need to think logically and put that thing. So here what happens whenever there is a FERT, you are setting directly 001, right? So with this one, the drawback is you cannot actually change the value later. So, but in this case, if at all you wanted to only default initially, that time you can put one more, this if condition you can enhance with, like if general item category is also initial. If that is initial, that means if it is FERT and general item category is initial, then only you set the value to 001. If that is not initial, that means you are changing to 002. So this rule won't get executed. Your if condition will get failed and whatever the value that you are setting, that value will exist. Let me show you that one. So click on edit, enhance this rule, put and, okay, here and material type is equal to FERT and so what I'm saying, and general item category is initial. So if material, now look at this condition. If material type is equal to FERT and general item category is initial, then only I wanted to set this value. Okay, save it, activate. So you need to think like this and prepare your conditions. Okay, so now let's run this scenario. We'll close this. Okay, so here each, this is okay. So now I'll enter the material type. So if material type is equal to FERT, this is initially the value is blank, so that's why it automatically populated. Now I can change the value 0012. See 004, I can change. So likewise, you can write all the validations because in any MDG projects, these validations and derivations are very, very important. And for sure, you will have these validations and derivations. Okay, we call these as the business rules. So business will provide you the rules, or else we need to work with business to get the rules. And those rules you need to implement while creating your master data. Okay, how do you implement that rules? One is using the BRF. Okay, so that we already I showed you that using validations and using derivations, how we can write the rules. Okay, now there is another option where you can implement the same rules using ABAP code also. Okay, so that we will see. Whatever we discussed these using BRF application, these are all the document is available.
Hey, you know, ZaranTech now offers SAP corporate training. That's right. Train your workforce in SAP with our comprehensive program. We offer customized courses, certified trainers, and hands-on labs for both individuals and businesses. Our standout features: bespoke training, fully configured servers for practice, in-house materials, and a dedicated LMS. Plus, get session recordings and 24/7 support. From functional to technical modules, we have got it all. Choose ZaranTech for SAP training and watch your team excel. Learn, upskill, succeed with ZaranTech.
So we'll go through this folder structure. What are the things that are there in each of these folders? Okay. For now, these rules should be available under set 2, not here. 4. Yeah, in the set 4. Okay, so there is a folder called validations and derivations. Okay, you can see how to check or derive. So check means validation, derive is a derivation for an attribute using BRF application. So whatever I explained the steps to create a function, rule set, signature, and rules, everything explained in this document. So they are creating with some currency code, some validation. So they're creating a function over here. Check underscore entity name. Okay. This is adding a signature. Okay. And after that, this is a rule set. Okay. And you can see the condition, how it look like here. They're writing some if currency is equal to DEM or equal to GRD. They are throwing some validation over here. These two currencies are no more exist. So that's why they're invalid currency or something. They're throwing some message over here. It's a validation. Similarly, derivation also will be there. So on the UI, they get this particular currency is not allowed. Okay, so you will also have this is the derivation. Same under derive folder, they're creating a function, derive underscore currency, and the same steps followed over here. And you can see the derivation. So they're throwing some, what is it? Defaulting some values over here in the derivation. If you are not clear with this, just go through this, whatever I explained. This will, I think, debug info. I don't know why what is this derivation? No, this is a troubleshooting thing. Not that. Yeah, here this is the derivation. If currency URL is initial, change the URL to some value they're setting over here. It's a derivation. Okay. So likewise, this you can always refer this particular document for validations and derivations using BRF application. Okay. So now coming back to this is one way of implementing the rules using BRF applications. Okay. And any questions on this?
But is this all connected to the data quality topic,
Yes.
or is it?
So you remember we discussed about writing a validation using a BRF application, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Today we I just discussed about the same. I just did a quick recap of how we created a validation and after that how we actually the same steps how we created a derivation as well. So that the derivation we have created, you can just record. It's a very simple thing. If you go through recording, you'll follow. But just to give glimpse, right now, you see as soon as I enter FERT value, material type, I wanted to fill this data.
Okay.
So that is a rule we implemented quickly. Okay, you can just go through that recording, but it's how we implemented the validation. 99 everything is same. 99% the steps are same. Only at the towards end, instead of throwing a warning or error message, we set the value to we default some value to the field. That's the only
derive the value. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so that you can actually refer. Now see here. So this is the one. So last time we created under this one check entity. The and to be created a validation under this derive folder. In the derive folder also, you can see if material type is equal to FART and item category group is initial, we are populating change value of this item category to 001.
Okay, no problem. I'll go through, and then if there are any questions, then I'll come
Yes,
back.
sure.
But I think it's fairly straightforward. No problem.
It's a straightforward stuff. Okay, so this is how we use only these two folders. Either for all the validations, this one, for all the derivations, this folder. If you have more validations on different attributes which falls under different entities, you can create those many functions over here under check and under derivations for derivations. Okay, so the other folders we don't use. Just ignore these folders. We don't use at all these things. Okay. Okay. So this is one way of writing without writing any ABAP code. Just follow the steps, and if else, using if else, you can manage and write a validation or derivation for master data. Okay. Now the same, let's say, for example, we created one custom data model, right? For now, how we can write validations or derivations for the custom data model? It's the same steps. There is no difference. Okay. So for this one, the same thing, we need to go to data quality. Okay. So here, validations and derivations. This one, define validation and derivation. Execute this.
So can I just quickly ask you this question? Sure. So while we are waiting for this, so these rules we are creating as a BRF thing, creating. Is this what measuring the quality of the data? And
no, that is a different one. This is while creating your master data, it will go through these rules. Data measuring is a different one. Data quality measure, I remember we discussed in the earlier.
Okay.
So that is there is a separate module, DQM, data quality management. Okay. So there we can measure that one. I'll show you how we will also discuss about the DQM topic.
Yeah. Okay.
This is you are creating a materials in your system, right? So creating a materials, you need to take it through certain validations and some derivations.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's for
these
object
rules are not contributing to the quality. Okay.
Exactly. So the name, it will little confuse you, because here also it is there under data quality folder. You can see here, this is under data quality only. But the DQ we are talking is a different one. Both are for data quality only. This is validation derivation when you are maintaining the master data. That is measuring your data quality, how quality your data is.
And I think the data quality measure is an ongoing thing, right? So it's not
that is an ongoing
concerned with the simple project. It keeps going all the way. As and when the rules change, they will measure the quality and then take actions.
Okay. So I'll show you the data quality topic also. I'll take a session on that one. Okay. So now when you open this particular validations and derivations, right? So this is the application it will open. Okay. Now here, if you give and click on continue, it will take you to, it will initially, first time it will generate that FMDM underscore model underscore that structure, BRF structure. Similarly, you can choose your YP data model also, F4, choose your data model. Okay, because this is the first time I'm entering into this by inputting this YP data model into this BRF application. So system will create now the structure. What is that structure? Let's click on continue and see. So because it is asking for the transport first time, right? Okay, it will create a similar kind of structure, but the name is FMDM underscore model underscore YP. For it will be For YP data model, it is YP. Similarly, for BP, you will have BP. And when you expand this trigger function, you have check entity and you have derive folder. So all your validation should go under this one. Check entity, your validation should go under derivation folder. So this structure remains same. If you know how to write a validation using BRF for material master, then the same concept you need to apply for custom data models or all your standard. It can be your BP, finance OG, or EAM article master. It follows the same thing. There's no difference. Okay, fine. So now we learned how to create a validation and derivation using BRF application. Okay, so now there's a using baddie also you can do that. The same thing you can also do using the baddie. Okay, so using BRF application, so we discussed about validations and derivations. Now baddie is also there. That means here you should have that ABAP skills to write the validations and derivations using baddie. Okay, now when I can go for this particular baddie? Okay, so there are two situations. This one is you will go for BRF applications if your rules are simple and straightforward. What do you mean by simple and straightforward? You look at this one. The rule says if FERT is this one, okay, item category value should be this value. So it's a simple, straightforward rule. Okay, and when you get a rules from business, it's not necessary all the time. All the rules you will get like this simple. When you get some 100 rules, out of 100, maybe 50% of the rule will be straightforward. Some of the rules, all the unit of measures, all the time it will be each only. So this is always simple and straightforward rule. But there might be some rules where you need to first check, okay, if FERT is if this is equal to FERT, and let's say you also need to check whether this particular plant is there or not. So the plant falls under a different entity, or else you need to look at some data from some custom table and write the validation. So it's not a simple one. You need some processing logic before you are arriving a validation. Material type equal to FERT, and the plant material should be extended to P0, some X001 plant, and it should exist to maybe some cost center should be this one, and then only you populate this item category to some value. So that means your validation is based on multiple fields, and those multiple fields are spread across multiple entities, not within the same entity. Or else when you are before you are throwing that your validation is in such way like that, you need to check in some custom table also, like you need to query some custom table. So it will be like a step-by-step process. First get this value, read this data from custom table, and do the data comparison, and finally throw an error message. That requires some processing logic, not a straightforward one. So in that case, you go for a validations using baddies. Because in the baddie means it's an ABAP. So you can write some select statement from Z star table and say get the data from this particular plant table and all that one. And finally, you do your check comparison and throw an error message. Right? So there you need, it's not a simple one-step process. You need to write some 5-10 steps of ABAP logic and finally throw the warning or error message or the derivation. Right? So basically, those we can the limitation with your BRF validations or derivations is you cannot do cross-entity validations or derivations. What do you mean by cross-entity? So your derivation or validation is based on multiple attributes which are spread across multiple entities. Earlier, the two examples which we discussed, the validation and derivation within the material entity only. So that's why I can create one simple function and I can do the comparison. But now in this case, my validation or derivation is based on multiple attributes which spread across multiple entities. In that case, that requires some ABAP logic. You need to read both the entity data and finally do a derivation or validation. So in that case, it's not one step, it's a multiple step that requires some processing logic. That's where you go ahead, we implement such kind of validations using baddies. Okay. Now, in what case I go for, in what case I go for BRF and baddie? If you look at that rule, if that's a simple and straightforward within the same entity, always go for BRF validations. If I look at a rule and if that rule is not a straightforward, I need to read some, apply some processing logic, then go for baddie validations or derivations.
Even though the entities are in the same data model, you still need to use BADI to.
So you cannot write validation based on the entities with different data models for sure. First thing is always it is within
so it's only one data model.
One data model, but we are talking within the same data model, multiple entities.
Multiple entities.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So here in BADI also, you can, whatever you are implementing using BRF, so that you can do using this one. The first, this is equivalent to what we did earlier, BRF validations and derivations. Okay, it's a two, that is one bag. Either you can implement BRF and write a rule, or you can write a rule using the BADI as well. So both are there. Now the one which I'm talking about, cross entity, this is the one. Cross entity derivations you cannot do using BRF application. So that's where SAP provided this particular BADI. So this BADI is single entity validation and derivation, which is equivalent to one which I showed you, that BRF, and this is cross entity. Okay, so if you go to this single entity BADI validations and derivations, you can see there are multiple examples standard SAP implemented. Okay, you can see for all these, whatever you see, you can refer any of these for your sample reference. SAP also implemented many out-of-box validations and derivations using single entity only.
So what happens if if I need, if I'm in the material creation or, material manager or in that department, I want to check some sales information or anything else, and is it not coming from the same data model, or is it something like finance? If it's a finance data model from one of the tables, how will I get that into any of these validation derivations?
I understood your point. Let me explain here. So you are creating a, let's say you are creating a material. Okay. So when you are creating a material, you might require, when, let's say, you are creating a material. When you're creating a material, you need some data like GL account, okay, and a supplier who provides this one, and a supplier number, and what else? The master data, let's say supplier GL account, majorly these two, which refers so GL account is another master. This is your finance. OG is the data model. In the OG data model, you create a GL account. Supplier is part of your BP data model, where you create a supplier. Right? So when you're creating this material, you need to enter some GL account and you need to enter some supplier. What does that mean? Basically, by the time when you're creating this material, already your GL account might be already created using this GL master data process. Using your finance master data governance, this GL account already should be set up by this time. Then only when you go to your material application, do an F4, you get this particular, the GL account that is already created.
Okay. So
similarly, BP also, you cannot enter a supplier which does not exist in the system. When you do it, it will show you all the existing suppliers, but how the suppliers got created, those might be created using your BP data model already.
Correct. So creation on the individual data models, which is fine. But when I create the material and I want to check what is the GL, account number or something, or sales organization number or something, for that I need to write a validation or anything or derivation. Will this data model that I've created, will that allow that cross data model?
If you are looking for when you are creating a material master and when you're entering GL account, what you want, what you are looking is what are the validations or derivations are there of the GL data model? Can I run or can I check something like that, right?
No. All I need is if I want to create this material, I need to input the GL account number. That GL account number I don't know, so I'm trying to derive it from the somewhere. I don't know. Let's not even.
So then, in that case, you should have a business rule. See, you think about the end user point of view. End user doesn't know what GL account he has to input, right?
Correct.
So then, in that case, as an MDG person, we should check with the business that, hey, we are creating these materials, and what should be the GL account I need to input? What is the rule behind the, or can we derive a GL account automatically? Or can we do a validation in the backend for the GL account? On what basis I need to derive or on what basis I need to put a validation? That you need to get from the business, and accordingly, you might have already implemented that rule in your MM data model as a rule. So when you are creating a material, automatically that rule will get executed and it will derive the GL account.
Okay, so basically the BRF rule can go across data models and then fetch the data.
No. See, you are mixing up two things here. One is, forget about GL account, the rule and everything. GL account, of course, created via OG finance data model only, via finance data model.
I'm not
but when you are creating, when you are creating a material, look at this screen. You are creating a material. This is just like what material types I can input. You do an F4, whatever you see, those material types you can input. How these material types are created, I'm least bothered.
No. These two are related. So material group, they are related. So they could be in the same data model and it's fine.
Yes.
But if I need to use the GL account number.
So that's what I'm saying. GL account also, just like from your material master point of view, how you are choosing all these attributes, your GL account also, it's the same fashion. There is no difference. Okay, so that let me show you here. Plant, I'll choose one plant here. Either you will have that, you need to get the validation or rule behind that GL account. Okay, so you entered this, where should we see? Profit center is there here.
Yeah.
Okay, now profit center. So when you do an F4, you can see all these profit centers, those are assigned to some control area and everything. So you can choose any profit center here.
So how is this first of all configured? I mean, who would do this configuration of the profit centers to this MDG?
So these all are coming from your SPRO configuration only. As a MM or SD or finance consultant, so if you go to SPRO, that profit centers are showing from your finance configurations, not from
one clarification here. So basically we have a two box, right? One is S4 box, another one is MDG box. Whatever the baseline configuration which we complete as part of SD, MM or TP, everything as part of that XLD, the configuration will come into MDG system, correct?
Yeah. So see.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So let me show you here. 1 minute. Okay. So this is my MDG system. When I say this is my MDG system, okay, and here you already have your ERP layer. What do you mean by ERP layer? You are having that SPRO configuration. Under SPRO configuration, you are setting up your controlling areas, you are setting up your company codes, your plant, sales organizations, everything you are setting up over here, right? And as part of that one,
So the SPRO, all the configuration will come from S4 only, right, Akshay?
S4 only?
No, like MDG system, in that MDG system, under the MDG system, on top of MDG system, we have S4, under the S4 on top of MDG we have, correct? We have a separate S4. Usually S4, all other supply chain team and HR team and finance team, where they will complete the configuration through the transport, all the SPRO will come into MDG, system. right?
Yeah. So I'll tell you in another way. So
Sure.
whatever you said, that is one option. See, let's say, for example, in this MDG system, you have this SPRO configuration. First of all, what I'm talking is this SPRO configuration deals with your SD, basically your logistics, including finance, the complete your
right. Okay.
organization.
Get it now. Yeah, I
Okay.
understand.
So this is there.
all the configurations are same here. Okay.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
So now from where this configuration is coming up into the system, because see, I also have another S4 system in my organization. Okay. So in this system also I have SPRO. Now the thing is that which one you consider it as a source of truth for your SPRO configurations. You can consider one way is I will consider my MDG system as a source of truth for all these SPRO configurations as well, along with MDG. In that case, if I'm adding a new company code, I also need to replicate this to other systems. Or else the other option is if they consider this as my source of truth, okay, so then here I will set up my cost center, profit center, or whatever the stuff. Then I will sync it to this system. Ultimately, you use MDG system as your source of truth for SPRO configurations or some other systems. All your SAP S4 systems should be in sync from your ERP logistics configuration point of view.
Right. Okay, understood. I think now I was confused when we are creating a material. How will I pick up a profit center? That profit center may be part of the SPRO. Maybe it is profit center was governed, created, and then ready in the SPRO.
Exactly.
We just use that without any extra, BRF or anything. It just automatically it comes into MDG whenever we are creating the material. That's what it is happening. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so the SPRO is the glue between all the systems. So every configuration is ready in that already, which is where the things are coming from to various things.
That's
I
true.
mean, is it only one SPRO? Is it or multiple SPROs?
No, it's
if
only
the
one.
salesperson wants to use a material, which we, as a material management team, will do everything, created a material, and that material will be ready in our system, and sales wants to use that material, they will come and pick up from the SPRO. Is that how it works?
Yeah. See, SPRO, you go for a configuration stuff to maintain your configurations. From the master data point of view, creation, change, everything, you do it from your MDG UI applications, MDG.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. So creation,
I
edition,
think
all those
Sendil
things.
or Dinesh, you have that one, right? So Pro, from where it is coming up. So whatever you said that is also true. Maybe you already have another S4 system where all these configurations are being done by multiple teams, and you need to replicate the configuration to all other systems in your organization. That is, MDG is one system. The other way around is I will use MDG as my base system, and everyone will do this their SPRO configurations in MDG. From here, they replicate the data to all other remaining systems.
So that also asks the questions: when you are creating a material, you just create the material through MDG system, govern, and then create it and activate it ready. Does it mean that we have to go and put some values to SPRO so that the sales can come and pick that material, or anything at all?
What values can you?
I mean, I don't know. So the say, for example, I want to create a spare part. That spare part has been properly, going through the workflow, approved, and then it is created. It is already activated, so it is already there in the ERP layer. But then when a salesperson wants to use that spare part, where do they pick that up? Is it from
they wanted to use it for what purpose? So for some transaction purpose, right?
For selling, for selling a spare part to a customer.
Exactly. So that is your transactional activity. That means, let me show you that picture. Actually, this is what we are going to discuss after this one, the data replication topic. Okay. What happens a typical in the organization? This is your MDG system, where in the down you have your ERP layer. Okay. And this is your staging area. and this is your active area, nothing but your, let's take example of Mara table, right? So you created a material spare part. That spare part is all, once it is activated, it created in the system. Now, this is your MDG system. You use this system only for master data creation, no transactional purpose. For creation of your sales orders or purchase orders, you have a separate transactional system where you create sales orders, purchase orders, goods movement documents or invoices, everything. Okay. Now what happens as soon as this data is created, you need this data, whatever the spare part you created, this spare part should be available in your transactional system to use it for your transactional activities. That means you will configure a data replication from here to here. And so that here also you have the same spare part will be replicated here. Now you can use this data for your transactional activities.
Okay.
You remember we discussed about hub versus co-deployment scenario in the starting.
Okay.
So this is a hub scenario. Yeah. Hub scenario means you will have a dedicated MDG system for master data creation, and this particular system exclusively used for only for master data maintenance, no transactional activities. But whatever the master data you create in this particular system, every data you will be replicating to this target system. It can be your materials, it can be your business partners or customers, vendors, or finance objects, articles, whatever the master data you create in MDG. Everything you replicate to this system so that you will all use this for all your transactional activities.
Right. Okay.
So in your example, that salesperson can create a sales order in this system.
Okay, so this is more like a hub only.
Yes, this is a hub scenario.
If it is a co-deployment, then everything is available as soon as you create the salesperson.
Co-deployment means, when I say co-deployment means, that is basically in the same transactional system on the top of that one.
You have the MDG.
Your MDG.
Yeah, as soon as that's created, it is there in one of the tables there.
Yes.
And then the salesperson can use a transaction system within that to create a sales order or something using that spare part which is created.
Yep. Okay. Coming back to our topic. So you have two baddies. SAP provided two baddies over here. One baddie is basically for your single entity writing validations or derivations. SAP provided n number of examples. You can refer any of these examples. Okay. Let's take one of the baddie. These are the out-of-box implementations only. SAP also implemented some validations and derivations. Okay. So we go to this implementing class. You will have two folders here, check entity, derive entity. Okay. In check entity, you can write all the validations. Okay. So there is nothing here empty. Okay. But if you look at the signature, so whatever the data that user entered, okay, on the screen, on your this particular screen, right? Whatever user input, the data will come as this is for the ABAP technical persons. You can see IT underscore data. That means it's an importing parameter to your method. So all the data that is available on the UI will come as an importing parameter. And what is the return output of this method? ET messages. That means you take this data, apply your logic, do your validations, and throw this message in the back. So whatever you throw in this ET underscore message back, these messages will be displayed on in the UI application at the top. Okay. So you cannot change the data. You cannot, let's say, you cannot change in the data means it's a derivation. Throwing a message is a validation. So SAP exclusively this particular, you cannot change the values of IT data, but you can, based on this data, you can throw the messages. And you also have what is the entity type and what is your change request. So you have all this other information as well. Let's say, for example, I told you, right, these validations and derivations are at your object level, at your level. Okay. But you have a specific requirement saying that this validation should run only for mass processing or maybe for a specific CR types. Then what you need to do, you get your data, the change request number also as an input. First, you look at, by looking at the change request number, you need to identify what is your change request type. How do you know? Any guess? You are getting the change request number as importing to this method. What is change request number? 698. I'm getting 698 as a change request number as a importing parameter. Now, how do you know what is the change request type for this one? Let me save this.
You have to find the BOT, right? Business object type.
No. So let me show you here. We discussed about a table called USMD 120C. Okay, pass your change request number. See your change request number, you get a change request type. What is the change request number here? 698. 698. See your change request type is MAT01. So likewise, you can get your change request types based on the change request. In case if you want to run the rules specific to certain change request types, that's where this information will be helpful to you. Okay, entity type is also you are getting over here. Okay, so all the information is available over here for you, where you can write a validation. Of course, this implementation, you have this empty, but when you are creating a new implementation also, you get a example class, or else you can look at some other, let's say for example, this one. Some of these implementations should have that logic, maybe in check entities. This is also empty implementation only. So basically, standard SAP implemented this for derive entity, but some examples might be there. We need to look at in which implementation there's a sample code is available, or else when you create a fresh implementation also, you get a reference piece of code. Okay. So, but here as well, the derive method is there. Let me show you. If you look at the derive method, so basically, you can, let's say, derive entity. There's some out-of-box implementation is there. What they are doing, they're just checking whether it is for BP. Entity type is AD postal. They're doing some derivation over here. Tax jurisdiction code they are deriving over here. Okay, this is a standard out-of-box implementation. Okay, now here you look at the data you are getting it as a CT. CT means it's a changing parameter. So you can change this data. Inside this method, you can change the data. Of course, CT message is also there, but this you cannot throw error. You cannot add error messages over here. You can only add information messages only to this one. So this is exclusively for derivation, and you can populate this data. The previous one, check entity, is for validations, where you can populate your return messages. You can refer this sample piece of code, how SAP done this one. Okay, so this is about the single entity. Again, in this one, it's a single entity validation and derivation only, and you have a filter values. Just like we discussed in our rule-based workflows, you need to add your the data model. At least you should add data model. Entity type you can ignore over here. Within the implementation, you can check the entity name and accordingly write the logic. But at least a data model should be added as a filter criteria. Why? Because if you don't add this data model, BP data model, this particular implementation will get executed for all the, it will get triggered for all the objects, for MM, for BP, for finance, for every scenario. Because this is a multi-implementation body, and its system will try to call all the available implementations. So that's why if you add a filter, and this implementation will get executed only for BP data model. Okay.
How do we know whether it's a multi
so that
entity or single
entity? So let me show you that. You go to SE18. So this is the body name. This is actually will tell you a multi-implementation one, but why this is not? This is the place where usually you see multiple use. It's a multiple. This I don't know why this is not ticked over here, but this is a multi-implementation body. But when you are creating a new implementation itself, it will tell you that if already implementation exists and that is not single implementation, then it will throw an error message. So that's how also you can find. If it is allowing you to create a new implementation, that's fine. But usually this is the place where it will tell you whether it's a multiple implementation or single implementation.
If it's ticked, I think it's multiple implementation.
Yeah. By name, it says that it's a single use. But it is a multi-implementation one. I don't know why is this not considering it or what. But that's fine as long as it allows you to create a new implementation, well and good. Okay. So, yep. Coming back to there's again another body that is a cross entity. Like if you have any validations or derivations across entity, so then you have this cross entity one. Okay, so there is a implementation is also available. So this will get executed. I'll tell you that sequence you have this one, right? So in the sequence I'll tell you here also. If you go to implementing class, okay, so derive entity and check in there. If you go to derive entity, okay, so this is a place where you can actually implement the validations or derivations using across entities, basically. That means there should be one example based on certain entities, multiple entities, how you are writing this logic. Or else when you're creating a fresh implementation, system will give you one example implementation as well, out-of-box implementation. Let me look at. Maybe one of the standard implementation should have that. One of these out-of-box implementation should have that cross-entity thing, or else when you create a new implementation, you will get an example. So let me create one. See, these are the different example implementations are there. Okay, so you can take any one of the one. Valuation is there. I'm just taking this copy sample class. So they provided what is this example with some description. So when you have some time, you can just go through it. So here what they are doing is basically they are reading the data from material entity, class type. So, okay, what they are doing is here, they're based on your material entity attribute, they are preparing some characteristics, they're filling some characteristic data here. Because your material entity, this is in one material entity, and this is your classification entity. Both are two separate entities. Okay, so based on that one material entity, they're filling the class and characteristics over here. And ultimately, you need to write yeah. So this is the one where it will write the data to your new entity. Write data. This is a this IO write data is there. You see you are getting this IO write data as importing. So there is a method write data. You need to enter what is the entity that you are going to write. This is your entity name, valuation entity. Okay. And what are the attributes you are going to fill? And for each attribute, what is the value? This is your entity attributes. For each entity attribute, this is the values. So you need to fill the data something like this. Okay. And you also have this in ET, this where you can fill the validate messages as well back to your on the UI. So this is a good example how to based on material entity, how you are writing a valuation, filling the valuation data. So you can refer this piece of code. and they provided some description as well over here. Okay, so this is basically mainly for the ABAPers, these both the badges which I discussed, and for the functional, you can look at once you have all the list of rules in your functional specification, then from there you can decide which one you can implement using BRF and which one you need to implement using the baddies. Okay, so now coming back to the sequence, right? Because in the baddies, we are talking about two type of baddies. One is your single entity baddie, other one is your cross entity baddie. So first your single entity baddies will get executed. All your single entity implementations will get executed. Okay, so because if you look at this one, okay, now see here baddies, right? First system will run your validations, BRF application. After that, your single entity baddies. And finally, this will get executed for every entity. Okay. Sorry, this one. This is a single entity baddies. This is single entity BRF application. So all your entity-wise validations and rules will get executed from BRF application as well as from baddies. And finally, your cross-entity baddie will get executed once, only once. This is for each entity. This is once all the entity validations or derivations are get executed. Finally, your cross-entity baddie always will get triggered once only. That means, let's say, for example, on this UI, okay, on this UI, you filled some data with respect to basic data, and you filled the descriptions, you filled the dimensions, you filled all the plant, all these are the each entities to us. Once you enter all this data and hit enter, that time each entity will get executed. And finally, one time your cross entity will get executed.
Yeah, it's okay. I think clear to me.
Okay. Yeah. So that is for your reference purpose in which sequence it will get executed. Because if you put a breakpoint inside the cross entity baddie and single entity baddie, and single entity baddie will get executed for every entity. So the debugging mode, your breakpoint will get triggered multiple times. And finally, once all these things are done, the breakpoint controller will come to your cross entity baddie only once. Only once in the sense you enter some data, hit enter, it will run everything, and once your cross entity baddie will get executed. Again, you enter some more things and hit enter, again your cross entity baddie will get it. So in an instance, from the data enter point until you hit enter, how many entities you populated, those many the baddies will get, those many times the baddie will get executed, single entity baddie as well as the BRF application. And finally, your cross entity is the last final one in that particular back and forth, in that particular instance.
So if there is no specific changes to the baddie, it's only BRF, then the first BRFs are executed and then baddie will never be executed. Is that how it works? No. If I haven't implemented anything on the baddie side.
Yes. If you haven't implemented anything, there is no baddie get executed. If all your rules are there in BRF, only BRF will get executed. So system will look at, is there any active implementation for that particular baddie? If there is an implementation, it will also look at the filter condition, whether this is for data model, whether this is for these entities. Accordingly, it will, if all the conditions, filter conditions also matching, then it will execute that your baddie.
Yeah, so I think
no baddie execution.
Yeah, I think probably you already mentioned. So for the particular field, we may have to connect that baddie if at all anything is to be implemented, isn't it? If the change happens in that particular field, then BRF or baddie will get executed.
You are right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
If you don't change any particular entity attribute, any of the attributes, right? So that never that entity related baddie or BRF will never get executed. Only when there is a change, then only the data, that particular thing will get executed.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So this is all about validations and derivations under the data quality topic using BRF as well as baddies. Let me see if there is a document also No, there's no document for that baddie, because for the baddie thing, always there's a example implementations are there. You can look at the code and accordingly you can write the logic. But for BRF, so they provided the step-by-step approach. Okay, so that is about data quality. Okay, we discussed about such applications, duplicate checks as well. There is one enrichment spot is there. We don't actually use very regularly, but I will take it this little later. Just I don't want it to confuse you or change your focus, but this I will take it up maybe once we complete the other topics. This is a very less importance. Okay, so with that one, mostly except that enrichment spot. So we completed everything under the data quality topic. Okay, so now what is pending for us is data replication. Why data replication node is not coming? Data quality, data model, DRF.
The data consolidation is also
No, replication, I think it came over here in the down. Okay. Consolidation, it's a different T code. I'll explain that one. Okay. So from MDG point of view, the next important three topics that we have, basically two topics only. One is data replication, DRF. Okay. DRF topic. The other one is mass processing, and something related to security, the rules and everything, right? And the how we can actually extend the standard data models. Standard data. So far, we created a custom data model, custom UI application, CR types, and everything, right? Of course, the data quality and everything we discussed on the standard objects only, but it's the same thing. Whether you are, if you know how to do it for one object, the same you need to apply for other objects as well. Okay, but we never discussed like how I can add, extend model with Z attribute or Z entity, right? And what are the steps are there? So this we haven't discussed. So this we call it as a enhancing your standard data model. Say either it can be or BP or finance or anything, right? So this also we need to discuss. Okay. So mass processing and security are small topics only, and even DRF also it takes only one session for us. And this will take one session. This will take one session for us, and all other mass processing, security, and all these things will take one session for us. Okay. So with that one, we'll be completing mostly everything in MDG. Then two topics that we have: consolidation and DQM, data quality management. So these two will take mostly one session, okay, where we will be discussing the Fury as well here. Okay. So these two will take one more session or 1.5 or 2 sessions. Let's take maximum 2 sessions. Okay. So totally we'll have 5 sessions pending from our side. Okay. So what I will do is we can let me take mass processing now. Okay, let's finish mass processing and then we'll go to the data replication framework. Okay, so when it comes to mass processing, so far we are discussing about creating a single material or changing a single material like one object, right? But in the real time, this is one scenario where you will be creating the objects materials. But the other one is, let's say, the scenario could be you need to change the description for 1,000 materials or maybe 10,000 materials, or you need to change the unit of measure for 10,000 materials. Okay, how do we do that one? Doing it one by one, opening every from the search application, opening every material, go to edit and then change the unit of measure, submit, and again open another material. So that will take a long time. So we should have a provision where you can modify or update this data in bulk, certain attributes.
Does it mean this approval also mass approval?
Yeah. So CR will be one CR only. It's a if you remember, when you are creating a change request type, you have this single usage or multiple usage checkbox.
Yeah.
Okay, and the change request type level. So if you tick that single, that is it's a for the single usage. Single usage means this one. Like you see here, you are creating a material. Okay, you go to create material. In create material, whatever the change request types you see, these are the single usage CR types. That means using this type, you can create one material at a time.
Right. Okay.
And the same way, there is a mass CR types also there. Mass CR type means there are some mass applications are there. File upload, file download is one example. Using that one, it will show you some CR types which are meant for mass processing. So CR type will be one, workflow will be one. That means your 3 decision tables, everything.
When you say mass processing, meaning that it will create a brand new material, also we can update some of the material existing information also, both, right?
So you can use this mass processing for new object creation. Like I want to create 1,000 materials at a time. So you can create that one also. Or else you wanted to edit some 1,000 materials at a time. That also you can do. Okay. So yeah. So now this is basically single usage. But similarly, you will also have mass usage, mass update kind of thing, right? So for mass update, what are the different options that I have? What are the options that I have? One is from MDG point of view, you have some mass applications. From MDC, that is consolidation point of view, there are some mass applications are there. Okay, let's discuss here what is MDG offers for us to perform any bulk operations, right? And when we are talking about the consolidation topic, there I will explain what are the tools that we have to perform the bulk updates. Okay, in both the cases, system will create one mass CR, change request, which will hold, it's a one single change request only, but it can hold n number of objects, like maybe 10K or whatever the volume, right? It's a one single CR, which will have single the workflow. And then, but when you approve that workflow, that when you approve or activate that CR, automatically all the objects under that particular CR will get activated. Okay, so from MDG point of view, the main we have.
So one clarification. Out of 10,000, 1,000 got errored out. In case if you have to to backtrack, so the change request number is same, or 1,000 change request number is different actually.
So yeah, so if the system will perform the validation before activating your CR, system will perform a validation for all your 10,000 materials. If any one of the material fails with that validation, it won't initiate your activation process.
You mean the whole the remaining material is going to stuck in the same place, correct?
Yes. Okay. So now there are two type of mass applications that MDG offers. Okay. So one is mass change. The other one is using file upload, download. File upload and download. So these are the two main ones that MDG offers for us. And out of all these things, file upload, download is a very common one which we use. We configure it for most of the customers. This is the one which commonly used across all MDG implementations. Okay, but let's start with first.
I'm sorry. So, is this file upload download can be come under the data import framework? Will it become?
That is different one. That is a different.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. So you have this mass change. Now coming back to this first option, mass change. Let me show you here. Search, you go to search application. search your materials that you wanted to perform. Okay, you got some materials over here. Okay, now select the materials that you wanted to modify. Maybe I selected material numbers 24, 25, 26, 27. These material numbers. There is a mass change. Click on this mass. Okay. System shows you that your selection here. Okay, it shows your the materials that you selected. From here, if at all you wanted to remove your some of the one, you can draw. If at all you wanted to drop off something, you can still do that one. Or else you wanted to continue. Okay, so there is a baddie. I need to deactivate. Just give me 1 minute. So what I'm doing is, so here what happens is I'll explain what is the issue. You can see here, enterprise switch connector for object material is not available. That means we are in S4 system. So in S4 system, we always use the HANA switch. Okay. So somehow there is a, I would say it's a kind of bug in the standard. So what it says is, now when you are in, there is a baddie, okay, which uses your enterprise search. So this baddie is always active. SAP should have been, actually they should have keep it as inactive, so that if someone needs, who are using your enterprise search, they can activate it. But by default, this is active, and we are using HANA search. So that's why there is a conflict. Okay, so we need to deactivate this particular baddie. That's the reason I'm just deactivating it. So once you deactivate this particular baddie, you don't get this error message. Let me close this. Run the scenario again. See, now you are not getting that error message. So whenever you get that kind of some enterprise search kind of error, so this is the path for that one. Under general settings, data quality, business add-ins, this particular baddie is there. Deactivate this baddie. How to deactivate? Click on this. You untick this one. So when you untick this, basically it won't look for enterprise search. It will look for your HANA search only. Okay, so that's an additional step we need to remember. Okay, fine then. So once you select this, go to next. Now, this one, basically, the purpose of this mass change, we selected some materials and now we entered into this one, right? So what type of mass update you can do here? Okay, you selected some couple of materials here. These materials, for all these materials, let's say, for example, you wanted to change the base unit of measure from PC to each. That means you are updating these values to one common value. In that case, you can use this mass change. Okay, but let's say, for example, you are performing this bulk update, and for this one you wanted to put each, for this one you want to put centimeter, for this one you want to put something else. That means for every object, your values are different. If your values are different that you wanted to modify, this is not the right application. This mass change is only helpful if at all for the selected objects you wanted to change the current value can be anything, but it will apply to one common value. You can update one common value. That's why you can see here. Let's say, for example, authorization group is there. So authorization group you wanted to update for all the selected materials. So let's say when I select something like authorization group 1, 2, 3, 4, some value. Okay, go to next. Okay, now you see here in the last step, it says for all these materials, current authorization group is blank. But system will replace for all these values This blank with 1, 2, 3, 4, one common value. Clear? Any questions on this? So you are modifying, if your requirement is to apply one common value to all the selected objects, you can actually go with this application. And here it's not only one attribute at a time, you can attribute, let's say, for example, you can choose all the values. Let's say, for example, let me go back. Authorization group, you wanted to update this value. And let's go to gross weight. Gross weight, you wanted to update with 100. Okay.
What sets ZaranTech apart in SAP corporate training? It's our unique blend of expertise and innovation. We offer customized courses tailored to each client's needs, ensuring relevant, targeted learning. Our vast trainer database brings you wisdom from the best in the field. Need resources? Access our extensive training material repository anytime. We are all about measurable results, providing detailed student metrics to track progress. And we don't just teach, we build community. Join our thriving social media network, connecting learners beyond boundaries. With ZaranTech, you are not just training, you are transforming your SAP expertise.
Likewise, what are the attributes that you wanted to modify, you can modify. And when you go to next, so it says that, okay, the current, what are the current values and what are the new values? You can see. And finally, when you click on execute changes, this is a place where system will create. Now in the CR type, it is not showing the CR types that you are actually during your creation time, it showed MAT01, ZMAT01, MATL01. Now these are the different CR types. That means system will pick up all the CR types which are eligible for mass processing, and those CR types it will show here, the drop down. Okay, choose one CR type, perform mass update. All this priority, reason for all these things you can maintain. Click on OK. Okay, so there are some warning messages are there, but still okay, I wanted to go ahead with this, save changes. Now system created one single change request, 699 is your single CR. And what is the CR type it used? That always you can go to USMD 120C table. The change request number is 699. Execute. You will find the CR type MAT0A. MAT0A is a mass CR type. Okay, so this is a CR type. Now system created this CR type. Fine. So let's look at how the UI look like for the mass. Till now, you know your single objects here look like this. This is the OOP application, right? But when it comes to your mass CR type, how the UI look like? So go to change request, select this change request, my change request, which I created. 699 is the change request. Okay. So now see here, when you select your 699, here it shows all the objects logged under that CR. Earlier we created this one. So only one object. This is the SOP, single object. This is MOP, multiple object. You see, multiple materials are there under the same CR. Okay, now let's look at this UI is little different. Okay, so when I click on this CR number, this is your mass CR UI look like. It will, okay. So now let's try to understand this UI. Okay, so now this is a mass UI. Whether you create your mass CR using MDG mass process or file upload download or MDG consolidation process by any means, ultimately in MDG, if you have the mass CR, this is the UI look like. Okay, so now you have your overview section tab. Under that, you can see the description, who created, created by, and all this information. If there are any notes are there, attachments are there, you can see over here. Okay, and you can also look at the notes section. Nothing, attachment section. This is the overview section. So this is similar to your in single object. You have your CR UIBB, right? In the CR UIBB, you have general notes, attachments. This particular UI, it looks little different over here. That's it. Okay. Now, under this one, it has 4 objects, 4 materials. You can see these 4. Now you wanted to review these 4 materials. So click on this material. It shows your 4 materials under the same change request. Okay, you have 4 materials. Now system shows here whether these objects got changed or not. That means because we added authorization group, we changed, and some gross weight or net weight, something we changed, right? So that's why system shows that these attributes got, these materials got changed. Now you wanted to look at what changes happened to these objects. Okay, so select one material, go to display changes. You can see here authorization group and width. What is the old value? Old values are blank. The new values are this one. Okay, so this is a changelog history. You can see it. So likewise, you have an option to select each material and go to display changes. But this is fine if you have some less number of materials. But in this mass here, if you have 10,000 materials, it is very difficult for the approver to go and see each changes. Then now how do I get all the changes in single UI? Okay, so that's where in the top, you have change documents. So you can select all these objects, go to top, change documents. So here it shows all your materials. You can download these change documents into an Excel also. So most of the time what happens is the business users download this data into Excel, and there they will apply the filters and review the changes that happened. Okay. So you also have something called attribute-wise change. This is object-wise changes. Okay. Object-wise means for every object, it shows that one row. But always, if you go to attribute changes, it will give a good overview. So for 24 material number, what attributes got changed? For 25 material number, what attributes got changed? And for each one, what is the old value and what is the new value? So you can actually get this information from here. So this is about the change history or change logs. Now I wanted to, okay, you already have this objects got logged under this here, but someone informed you that, hey, for this 24 material number, along with those changes, we also wanted to do some change, other attribute change also. For that one, you need to open this object, select this object, single processing. So with the same CR number, now it will open up your SOP overview page UI. CR number is same, where you can actually edit and do the changes. So it highlights what changes are done already, 1, 2, 3, 4, and wait this change. But now you have an option to edit the data to correct a few more attributes, and finally click on Save button. When you click on Save button, those changes also will be captured under the same CR. Similarly, you can open up another material and do further more changes. So from here, you can navigate to the individual object change documents, or you can navigate to the overall overview of all the change documents, or you can open up individual material and do further more changes. So all sort of things that you can apply over here. And finally, for the approver, you will have an option over here in the top, approve rejector. In the down, you will have. So he can review all these changes and he can either approve or reject kind of thing. So then it will initiate the activation process, and all the changes will be, all your objects will get activated. Clear?
Actually, this is the process to, follow these steps and we can do the mass processing. Is there any required thing is there in the MDG point of, in the sense this is a, is this a testing process now? I'm confusing. I mean, in the sense, so in the just like derivation and validations, we have done something in the using
all your derivations, validations, everything will whatever the derivations you configured in the backend, that will get executed irrespective of whether it is a single object or mass object. For every object, it will run your validations and derivations.
Okay. But coming to this, under this mass changing, so we are adding all the changes to one particular change request.
Yes.
So then we are executing. So because of that, it is getting changed in the all materials mass way.
Yes.
But shall we do anything in the back end for that? Do we
No,
have?
there's nothing. See, one is you need to configure one mass CR type. That you know how to configure a CR type. We already discussed.
Yes.
Okay. So that CR type you need to configure. You need to configure the workflow just like how we have done. You for single object, the same steps. So 3 decision tables will be there. You need to fill the data for your 3 decision tables, requester, approver, activation, and workflow close. So that we already learned. Okay. And validations and derivations we already discussed. So those also will apply. Whatever we discussed, everything will be applied. Ultimately, the reason that I'm showing you is from the UI point of view, how you can perform a mass change. There are multiple ways you can perform the mass change. So this one, the example which I'm showing from the search application, this is especially when you have a requirement to select few materials and apply the common value to all the objects. So that's where you use this application and how your mass UI look like. So only those two things are the different ones here. But rest your backend validation derivation, your workflows, your rules, your CR type configuration, everything remains same.
Okay, fine.
Okay. So yeah, all the concepts wise, there is no difference. Whatever we discuss for single object in the system, in the backend, it treats each one of as a single object only. But the only difference is you will have one CR number for all these objects. That's the only thing. Okay. Your workflows. You create, we create a workflow based on your CR type. So what is the CR type here? CR type is MAT0A. Okay. Now you go to MAT0A CR type, go to the workflow here. Where is that process modeling? Then workflow, rule-based workflow, then configure rule-based workflow. Here type is MAT0A. So when you are configuring the rule-based workflow, so you input the CR type, whether it is a single object or mass, we don't care. So go to MAT 0A, click on continue. Okay, you will have the same decision tables. This is a non-user agent. This is a user agent and a single validation table. So the same thing. So we know how to fill this data. Requester, approver, then activation, activation success, activation failure, approver rejects, it goes to revision team. Revision can resubmit or withdraw. Then you can actually, if in case of withdraw, you can actually roll back that. So it's the same thing. So there is no difference from the mass CR type. You no need to learn anything from scratch. All these things we discussed. How to configure CR type, MAT0A CR type. There is no difference. If you go to the change request, create change request type, MAT0A. Okay, so now this one, this is the CR type. So the only difference is this is a mass CR type and 86 workflow is assigned. That's it. The only thing is that if you go to business activity, here we are assigning the business activity. MAT-A is a business activity which is exclusively for mass processing. How do you differentiate this with MAT01? In case of MAT01, here MAT1 will be there. Okay, here for MAT0 is a mass. So you create your Z MAT0A or Y MAT0A, but you need to assign this business activity. So this business activity makes the difference. See, MAT1 is for single object. MAT A is for mass processing. Similarly, we also have something called data import framework. There we use MAT B. Okay, so your business activity makes the difference, whether it is a mass or single, along with the checkbox, along with the single object, this checkbox. Okay, so that is the only thing, but you know how to define your CR type. So for mass processing also, you can define your own CR type, create the workflow, and then do whatever you might already configure the validations and derivations in the backend using BRF BADI. So those will take place. If any of the validation get failed for one of the material, the entire CR will go for error, or probably it won't activate. So all that process remains same. There's no difference.
The CR type, I mean, I'm clear with the CR type and other things. When the actual workflow gets executed, is it, say if there is 10,000 materials, does it run once and then that out of that first step, second step, all the steps, all the 10,000 materials were included to process, and one of them gets approved, non-approved, or anything of that sort, then everything will, go in that one fashion, or is it going to be like?
See, from workflow point of view, we look at this one. Okay, so from workflow point of view, you will have requester, approver, and then activate, and then workflow complete. Okay, so here, whether at approver level you have one material or 10K materials, of course, it will do the validation and derivations for 1 or 10K. Okay, and approver always, basically they don't open one by one material. Maybe they can open that change documents that I showed you, and from there they can review that data and they can take a decision, approve or reject. If they approve, your entire CR, this is based on 699 is our CR number. This CR will go for an activation process.
Yeah. I mean,
And at activation process, system will run again all the validation checks and everything. It will activate one by one materials, all the materials. So from the workflow point of view, it's everything is like one process. It's not like approver will approve at the CR level. So the CR is always one. Under this, whether it one material or 10K materials, I don't care.
Okay, and if the change is all common across 10K materials, that becomes easier for approver to do.
Yes.
Okay, this is the same, so I can approve it. But if it, multiple changes in multiple materials, then it's very difficult for the approver to go through 10K materials too.
That's true, but that's where your validations and derivations, whatever you configure the validations and derivations, ideally that should take care of the review, the kind of thing in the backend. Okay, but still, if approver wants to review the data, there is no other way. He has to go to that change documents. The easiest way.
Maybe you'll take it in
one of
Excel
our actually when we configured this thing for the CR type, when we gave it for the business user, they said, hey, reviewing one by one material is very difficult job for us. Then we showed this option that, hey, you can go to this change documents, which will show you all the changes. Okay, so you download this data. So go to attribute changes and you export.
Yeah.
Okay, and here you can apply. You can apply the filter, attribute-wise filter, or maybe you can look at that, right? Apply the filter attribute-wise and everything. All sort of things that you can do in your Excel, and then come back and approve. See here, it shows that. So this is your material number. You can apply a filter based on the authorization group, or you can apply based on the this attribute. Likewise.
Yeah, understood. So I think that's the only thing that they have to work through. It takes time to review and then come back. And then once they come back, I mean, if they approve, 5K, okay, and then the remaining 5K, they can't approve for so-and-so reason, any reason, then the CR will be rejected.
It will be on hold or it will be rejected. So, yeah. So that
it will go back to reviewer and then do the 5K that were not correct, and then they will do again. It will come back to them, and then they will do the same process.
Yeah, so that's where actually, that's where if you look at this one, right, we can provide an option because if we configure this workflow properly, like where I have edit authorization, the records which I don't want, right, I can select and I can delete those records here itself. Then I can move on with the ones which I wanted to approve.
Oh, this is at the approval stages. Okay.
At approval stage also you can have option. You can add more records or you can delete the records.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay.
So the approval stage, if they remove unwanted records,
exactly.
then they
Now, if you
have to deal with only.
So how to enable this option? Okay. So this we discussed in the CR type. Okay. Let me remind you that. So if you go to the workflow, we discussed about the status, not here. During the workflow topic, we discussed about the status, pending with approver, pending with, remember we created these statuses. Pending with approver, activation in progress, these A1, A2, A3. During that time, I explained this one. Change of object list. Okay. So when you provide, so let's say, for example, I'm at the approver stage. At approver stage, you will be assigning some status in the rule base in your single value table. We are assigning some status pending with approver. So for the status, let's say, for example, this is the status I'm assigning. Now, if I select currently, no processing is there. But if I put this change of object list, means if you assign this status to the approver step, that means approver can add or delete the records. Change of object.
Okay, yes.
Significance.
It enables those buttons, and then
exactly.
They will be able to
during the time, probably because we are not discussing about the mass processing that time, you may not correlate it with that. So I intentionally explained, but still now again I'm showing you back that one. So if at all you wanted to enable this option for the approver to add or delete these options, so this is an approver step. For that step, you create one status, assign the status which has enabled this option. Okay. Yeah,
understood.
So that is about one mass processing UI. So we have in MDG two more. One is file upload download, which we will be using very commonly in many of the projects. More 100% we will implement. We create one, we define one CR type for file upload download, which commonly used across. So I will stop that because that requires some more attention. So in the first, we will discuss about file upload download. And after that, we'll go to DRF topic. And then there is one more DIF is there. I will discuss that one.
So when you have created a mass CR and then you have done everything, and then you have the ability to choose and this one. So we have chosen this 24, 25, 26, 27, right? This is more of a selection by this one. Is there any filtering or condition based?
This selection we selected from the search application. Do you remember from the search application?
Search based on we just clicked one by one. Is there a way to choose? I mean, if there is a 10,000 records to be selected, we can't click every single one of them. So is there a way to group them? Everything starting with something like product hierarchy 00011.
That option is there. So see here in the material, let's say you wanted to select material type based on material type with some FER star. Something like that, right? So if you select like this, it will fetch the records with that same, and you can choose the materials. This option is there, but the most appropriate one is file upload download, which I'll explain now. So there you questions may get answered.
Okay, for this one, if you are very sure what changes that you wanted to apply, then you choose that material and then go for this one. Okay.
Yeah. So there are multiple other options there. We will go one by one. This is the basic one. But in file upload download is there. In consolidation, you have better user-friendly applications are there. So we will discuss one by one mass processing.